Wait lang po.
Hi everyone, good day. Thank you for joining us today. I will discuss all. I would like to thank Hi everyone, good day. Thank you for joining us today. I will discuss about authentic assessments and my experiences in using it for online teaching and learning. First of all, I would like to thank ADL for this opportunity to share to fellow educators in this Learning Exchange 2021. I hope that this will be memorable. This is the outline of my presentation. I will start with introducing myself, then I will discuss why I am for authentic assessments. Lastly, I will go on to how I incorporated them in my online courses. Hi, my name is Maria Ramila Jimenez. I am the IT coordinator and a faculty of the Department of IT College of Computer Studies in Xavier University. Graduated my bachelor's degree in computer engineering in Cebu Institute of Technology and my master's degree in IT here in Xavier. Although I have more than 20 years experience in teaching, I could say that I am still a student at heart because I love to learn new things. Teaching is a calling that requires continuous learning. We don't stay at one level. One of the tasks of teachers is assessing students' performance, which brings me to why I am here. Let's have a little background first. Instructors typically approach course design in a forward design manner, meaning they consider the learning activities, how to teach the content, develop assessments around their learning activities, then attempt to draw connections to the learning goals of the course. In contrast, the backward design approach has instructors consider the learning goals of the course first. These learning goals embody the knowledge and skills instructors want their students to have learned when they leave the course. Once the learning goals have been established, the second stage involves consideration of assessment. The backward design framework suggests that instructors should consider these overarching learning goals and how students will be assessed prior to consideration of how to teach the content. For this reason, backward design is considered a much more intentional approach to course design than traditional methods of design. In Understanding by Design by Wiggins and McTee, it argues that backward design is focused primarily on student learning and understanding. When teachers are designing lessons, units, or courses, they often focus on the activities and instruction rather than the outputs of the instruction. Therefore, it can be stated that teachers often focus more on teaching rather than learning. This perspective can lead to misconception that learning is the activity when in fact, learning is derived from a careful consideration of the meaning of the activity. As previously stated, backward design is beneficial to instructors because it innately encourages intentionality during the design process. It continually encourages the instructor to establish the purpose of doing something before implementing it into the curriculum. Therefore, backward design is an effective way of providing guidance for instruction and designing lessons, units, and courses. Once the learning goals or desired results have been identified, instructors will have an easier time developing assessments and instruction around grounded learning outcomes. The incorporation of backward design also lends itself to transparent and explicit instruction. If the teacher has explicitly defined the learning goals of the course, then they have a better idea of what they want the students to get out of the learning activities. Furthermore, if done thoroughly, it eliminates the possibility of doing certain activities and tasks for the sake of doing them. In other words, it prevents content dumping. Every task and piece of instruction has a purpose that fits in with the overarching goals and goals of the course. Teaching is not just about engaging students in content. It is also about ensuring students have the resources necessary to understand. Student learning and understanding can be gauged more accurately through a backward design approach, since it leverages what students will need to know and understand during the design process in order to progress. Now, what is authentic assessment? According to Wiggins, engaging and worthy problems are questions of importance in which students must use knowledge to fashion performances effectively, creatively. The tasks are either replicas of or analogous to the kinds of problems faced by adult citizens and consumers or professionals in the field. Another definition by Stiggins, performance assessments call upon the examinee to demonstrate specific skills and competencies that is to apply the skills and knowledge they have mastered. Authentic assessment usually includes a task for students to perform and a rubric by which their performance on the task will be evaluated. Authentic assessments can be contrasted with conventional test questions, which are often indirect measures of a student's ability to apply the knowledge and skills gained in a course. Conventional tests have an important place in college courses but cannot take the place of authentic assessments. So the table drawn from Wiggins illustrates the differences between typical tests and authentic assessments. For typical tests, they require correct responses, right? For authentic tasks, they just require a high, no, it's not just, they require a high quality product or performance or skill and a justification of the solutions to the problems encountered. Then for typical tests, they must be unknown to the student in advance to be valid. And then for authentic tasks, they should be known in advance to students as much as possible. An example for this will be in when we require them to have a final project, we give them the rubrics beforehand so that they will know how they are going to be marked, so that they will also know what to put in their final project or final output. Um, yeah, so that it will be um, the indicator for the authenticity, right? So this is in the form of the rubrics or the criterion, and they should be set beforehand. Another one is they are disconnected from real-world contexts and constraints for the typical tests. But for authentic tasks or authentic assessments, they are tied to real-world contexts and constraints. They require the student to do the subject. Okay, so the indicator of authenticity for this is that the context and constraints of the task are like those encountered by practitioners in the discipline, by the professionals in the field. So they really apply to in a real world setting. So that's why we call them they are authentic. Okay, this is what makes the assessment authentic. Typical test questions contain items that isolate particular skills or facts, whereas authentic tasks are integrated challenges in which a range of skills and knowledge must be used in coordination. So it's the total package being required in the authentic tasks. For typical test questions, they include easily scored items. For authentic tasks, they involve complex tasks that for which there may be no right answer and that may not be easily scored. So that's why we need to have rubrics prepared. And then for typical test questions, there are one-shot um, thing, or students get one chance to show their learning. Whereas for authentic assessments, they are iterative. They contain recurring tasks. And then for typical test questions, they provide a score. For authentic tasks, they provide usable diagnostic information about student skills and knowledge. So in our rubrics, we indicate there meets expectations, exceeds expectations. Okay. Here are some examples of authentic assessments. I will not discuss them anymore because I'm sure you can read. I'll just focus on um, what I'm teaching. So I teach IT. This is Information Assurance and Security Subject 1. The final project I gave them was to create an information assurance and security plan for a selected organization or company. So this is an example of an authentic assessment because the students will create a plan, an IS plan, and it encompasses what is required in the course. So they will employ what they have learned, like um, what security measures or mechanisms need to be employed or need to be used by the selected company, um, of course, if they have chosen. Okay, so there are a lot of examples online. So these are some, like for psychology, public affairs, or service learning courses. And later I will show you a tool or a website where you can find um, a vast repository of resources, and which also helped me. Here's how to do authentic assessments. So there are 4 questions for us to answer how to do authentic assessments. Number 1, what should the students know? So the answer to this question would be the standards, the knowledge produced, the standards, or the benchmark um, that what should the students be able to do? What indicates students have met the standards? So this is the authentic task that we give to the students. So it's the one that it's how we know that the standards have been met. The third question is, what does good performance on this task look like? This is where criteria will come in. Criteria means identifying the specific characteristics that contribute to the overall assignment. So in other words, the level of performance of the student. Fourth question is, how well do the students perform? This is where the rubric comes in. There are 2 sub-questions here. Number 1, how well should most students perform? So the answer to this question is the cut score or the passing score. The second sub-question is, what do students need to improve upon? So this is the part that teachers have information that will help them adjust the instruction. As I end my presentation, think about what is the purpose of your course. This is what you should identify first when you design authentic assessments. Everything else will follow once you have this. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Jimenez, for that talk. The floor is now open for any questions or comments. You may unmute yourselves or type the questions in the chat box. And we only have until 2:40 p.m. for the Q&A. Thank you.
Hi, Leon. I have a question. I'm Von Katindoy.
Hi, sir.
Yeah. I just turned on my there. Okay. Yeah. Question for our presenter. Thank you so much, Ma'am Maria. Um, in the process of identifying an authentic assessment for our learners, where, as you mentioned, no, we were taught to shift paradigms because the objective is not so much to see who is the brightest or the most brilliant, but rather to ensure that all the learners are actually able to take away with them what they're supposed to realize at the end of the course. Doesn't this, in fact, lead to the phenomenon of inflation of grades, because this is an argument or a debate that I have had, a healthy debate actually, that I have had with my colleagues, having practiced ADL for the past 12 months. No? If our objective is in fact to ensure that every single learner actually leaves the class, no, confident that he or she has actually achieved the learning, and that we design the course in such a way that they're able to demonstrate that they, for in my case, for example, I teach philosophy of the human person, that they can actually philosophize within the context of their reality. Doesn't this in fact lead to the so-called phenomenon of the inflation of grades? What are your thoughts or insights about that? And I'd also like to open the floor or invite the other participants if they could also share their thoughts about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your question. Regarding the inflation of grades, I don't think that that is I don't have experience with the inflation of grades, because as teachers we select what we assess with our students. So as early as the beginning of the course, when you teach, you identify first in your course design how you are going to assess, and then what is the output that we require of them. So regarding the inflation of grades, I don't know. In my experience, I haven't experienced the inflation of grades, but your suggestion about changing your assessment, was it changing your assessment, sir? Changing your assessment according to the context of the student. Was that your what you did in your philosophy class?
Yeah, that was actually the challenge of ADL,
Mm,
as you very well explained in your recording.
mm-mm,
The objective is not so much to teach the content
mm-mm.
right alone
Yeah,
and
yeah.
come up with activities for the sake of
Yes.
activities, but
Mm-mm.
at the end of the quarter, to ensure that all 30 or 40 that were entrusted to you could demonstrate. Of course, there's such a thing as magis. Di ba? We have to
Mm-mm.
identify who's really the best. But in the process of, and if we couple this with last week's takeaway where we provide formative feedback,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in a way, that's actually where we're taking the learners in the long run.
Yep.
I just came from an a training program where we were taught to produce SCORM files,
Mm.
and the validation that the trainer was effective is if each student could actually produce the SCORM file, right? And
Mm.
di ba, masaya tayo if the
Yep.
student could do that. It's
Mm.
not so much, okay, I give you the minimum that I could or the maximum that I could, the way I know how. And it's up to you. Show me like, towards the end of this quarter or during the midterm what you're capable of. But
Yep.
if we couple authentic assessment with formative feedback,
Mm-hmm.
is it not the case that eventually the learner would actually do much better compared to how it was prior to ADL?
Yeah. So I'd like to add on that, sir. It is the assessment design strategy. If you when you give formative assessments, maybe you can just consider the final submission. You don't grade the initial submissions of the student, so you just grade the what do you call I don't know, near perfect submission maybe, so that it will be, it has a positive effect also on the student, and also on the output of our course, if we have really taught them well. So another thing that I'd like to answer is when you mentioned about tweaking the assessment task. Yeah, that's a good assessment design strategy actually, when you tweak it according to the context of the personal experience of the student. That's one way for us to prevent them from copying, from plagiarizing. So yeah, it's a great assessment design strategy, sir, to tweak the assessment task according to the context of the student's personal factors, experience, and whatnot. So, kana lang,
Thank
sir.
you po.
Thank you.
Salamat.
Hi, ma'am. We have another question from Ma'am Teresa Ten Chavez.
Okay,
Ma'am,
sige
I'd
po.
like to ask how many authentic assessments would be reasonable for teachers to give in a quarter or semester? This is because the kind of assessment, especially when authentic will matter in terms of how much time they'll spend in it or them. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, ma'am. Yeah, with regards to the number of assessment tasks or activities we give to the students, there's really no number, but um, I think you can give assessment tasks according to what you require of them. For example, um, you have a final project, right? So your formative assessment for the final project, because the final project is the summative assessment. So for your formative assessment, you can give maybe one or two so that they can achieve the summative assessment. And then also, when you give the formative assessment, it's up to you to, maybe uh, you will record it or not. You will record it to their achievement, to their effort. Okay, so it's up to the teacher actually. There's no, according to my readings, it depends on the teacher, how many assessment tasks he or she gives. And but if we give a lot of assessment tasks to our students, I think it would be a problem for us, because we have to give them feedback. From our training, I attended a training in ADL. We have to give timely feedback to our students as well. So I think, for me, in my opinion, the best number of giving formative assessments to the students would be one or two, according to the activity, or the summative the final output that we require of them to get from our course when they leave our course. So I hope that answers your question, ma'am. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
There's a comment from Emmanuel De Leon. I will be showing the slide again for um, about repository. Wait lang. Wait for a minute.
I forgot to share. I said I will share the website.
For your kind attention. So this is the point to the overall net. So one, yes, and which also help, and lot of a plan. Information assurance of big tasks. They provide usable data, because I'm sure you can read.
Is this the exact slide?
It's the last part, Leon. Second to the last slide, I think.
Okay. Forward po, ma'am.
Forward. There's a link there. Maybe I can just put the
Okay.
link in the chat. Yeah, that link, jfmuller dot faculty dot that one, that site. It's an assessment toolbox kit. There's a lot of resources there, even basic ed. A lot of resources for basic ed as well, and higher ed. So yeah, you can just let me get the link.
Ma'am, we have another question from Mr. John Abletis.
Okay.
Do you still use typical tests in your class? When is it appropriate to use one?
Okay, wait. Okay. Typical tests. Now that I know about authentic assessments, I don't. I try not to give typical tests to my students, because I now know the principles on how to give authentic assessment. So yeah, I think I will not go back to the old way, because I now know how to give authentic assessment. So yeah, I will not resort to that, like giving quizzes that will giving quizzes, online quizzes that will make the student easily search for the answer online. So I will not do that anymore. I know that authentic assessments, they don't get the answer online. So that's authentic assessment, right? So yeah, yeah, I don't give uh, um, these types of typical tests because I know that um, there's already authentic assessment. So we, as much as possible, no more. I will not go back to the old way, ma'am. Thank you.
We have 4 minutes left for Q&A. There's a question from Ma'am Angela Ilagan. How should assessments be made for bar exam subjects?
Uh, Bar exam. Yeah, because I know bar exams are typically from the book, right? But when they take the bar exam, I think they are face to face. They don't have online. So when you have I think I'm not the best person to answer that, but they can still use the um, typical tests, I think. But I also know that bar exams, they have cases, right? They have to answer based on how they are going to solve a case, something like that. So in that part, they have authentic assessment. They incorporate authentic assessment already, and of course, since it's the law, they need to memorize the law also. So yeah, I think bar exams still have the typical test questions employed because of they need to the lawyers need to memorize the law. So our prospective lawyers, our examining bar takers, they need to be familiar with the law. So I think it's good to have these typical test questions incorporated in the bar exams. Yeah, but I don't think I don't know if I'm the best person to answer the question, but that's my opinion.
We have an interesting question from Dr. Dennis Sandoval. There are
Okay.
long tests, problem solving in math, accounting, finance subjects done synchronously for 3 hours in Zoom camera on, microphone on part of students, and professor as though Zoom has just replaced the physical classroom. Is this okay?
Um, I think what subjects were they? Financial business. So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. So those types of tests, 3 hours, they are. I don't know if it's authentic, but um, when you, what's the question again? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Is it okay to have these tests synchronous tapos on camera?
It depends on the internet connection because I'm sure not all of the students have that um, have a stable internet connection. So you know the internet connection in the Philippines, right? So um, I don't know if you have if the teachers who have conducted these types of tests, they were successful in conducting the tests, but I think it's okay, but it would be taxing to just be there and watch the students answer the exam, right? We should go for I'm for authentic assessments. Kinsa tong question, who asked the question, ma'am, sir? I'm for authentic assessment. So answering a test for 3 hours straight with the on camera and so on, I don't think it's an authentic assessment at all because I as I have already mentioned in my recorded presentation, authentic assessments means it can be applied in real life, in a real world setting. So sitting through a 3 hour exam, I don't think it's authentic. Yeah, maybe if there's data, if there's data that supports the 3 hour exam is um, real world application of what the students have learned. Okay, so yeah, so in my opinion, sir, it's not okay. Yeah, it's not okay to have a 3 hour exam. Okay.
I think we can go a few minutes over time for one last question. For the other questions, we will just be emailing ma'am the questions and we will email the answers to you guys na lang po. From Ma'am Patricia Irene Dacudaw, would you think it is okay to change the grade range to avoid grade inflation, like instead of 92 on AS 95?
Grade inflation. Yeah, I think it would be okay, ma'am. because it helps the students, right? So our aim is to help the student, but in terms of tweaking it in order, in my experience, I haven't tried tweaking the range of the grade, but I know some colleagues in the university that they tweak their grade ranges. So I think there's no adverse effect on tweaking the grade range of the scores. Yeah, I think it's okay, ma'am, to tweak the grade range. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Sorry, but our time is now up na po. Thank you very much, Ma'am Jimenez, and all the participants who joined us for this session. And you may now move to the next session, and I will be posting in chat the master document for the Zoom links of the other sessions, just in case any of you need it. We also invite you to share your thoughts, questions, or insights from the session at gbseal.online/share. I'll be posting the master document in chat na po. Once again, thank you everyone and have a good day. Thank you, ma'am.